Welcome to HOA Outplayed. This one escalated fast in the snow. I am standing in my driveway at 6:45 on a Wednesday morning in January, holding a shovel, watching a middle-aged woman in a gray belted wool coat march across the snow toward me with a clipboard raised like a sword. She is yelling before she even reaches my property line. "You are in violation of drainage protocol, and if you do not move that snow pile immediately, I am authorized to issue an emergency fine effective today." Her name is Gloria Reed. She runs the landscaping committee for the Spruce and Snow Property Owners Association here in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and she has decided that I am her personal project. The pile of snow she is screaming about is 2 feet wide, sits 6 inches from my driveway drain, and exists because I shoveled my walkway this morning before work. I moved here 8 months ago because the county clerk office downtown offered me a job with benefits and a pension, and I thought a quiet neighborhood with mountain views would be a nice change. I was wrong. This HOA requires a form for everything, and every form requires another form, and Gloria treats the rulebook like scripture. What is at stake for me is my job, because the HOA chaos keeps interrupting my work and my sleep, and my supervisor has already warned me twice about being late. The first sign of trouble was 3 weeks ago when Gloria left a printed notice on my door claiming my snow removal pattern created a hazard, even though I was following the same method every other house on the block uses. She stops 3 feet from me and jabs the clipboard toward the snow pile. That is a drainage obstruction, and you know it. I have documented every single instance of your non-compliance, and this one goes straight to the board. I tighten my grip on the shovel and keep my voice level. "Gloria, that pile is smaller than the one in front of your house right now, and it is going to melt by noon." She does not blink. "If you want mercy, move somewhere without an HOA." That is her favorite line. She has said it to me twice before, once when I asked why my application for a new mailbox took 6 weeks, and once when I questioned a $50 fee for submitting a paint sample 2 days late. I have learned that arguing with Gloria in the moment only makes her escalate faster, so I nod and say I will move it before I leave for work. She writes something on her clipboard without breaking eye contact. "You are not the first person I have corrected, and you will not be the last." Then she turns and walks back across the snow, her boots crunching with authority. I move the snow pile 10 feet down the curb and leave for work. By the time I get home that evening, there is an envelope taped to my front door. Inside is a printed violation notice, dated today, claiming I failed to respond to a verbal warning and that I owe $75 for emergency snow removal enforcement. The notice lists a complaint log entry number and a phone number for the snow compliance hotline, which I recognize as Gloria's personal cell. I pull out my phone and take a picture of the envelope, the notice, and the timestamp. Then I go inside and start building a file. The next morning I wake up to find that someone has been on my property overnight. There is a salt bucket with a cracked lid sitting on my front walkway, right in the middle of the path I cleared yesterday. I recognize the bucket because I have seen it in 3 of Gloria's complaint photos that were attached to previous notices. I pick it up and move it to the side, then take a photo of where it was placed. I send the photo to myself with a timestamp and add it to my file. Then I shovel the walkway again, because a drifting wind kept recovering it overnight, and Gloria treats physics like defiance. At work I am processing property deed transfers when my phone buzzes. It is a text from an unknown number. "This is the Spruce and Snow Compliance Hotline. Your property has been flagged for repeat snow violations. A site visit is scheduled for today at 4 p.m. Do not interfere with the inspection team." I stare at the message for 10 seconds, then forward it to my personal email. My coworker notices and asks if I am okay. I tell her I am dealing with an HOA situation and she winces. She has her own horror stories. I leave work early and get home at 3:50. At 4:05, a white panel van pulls up in front of my house. 2 men in matching jackets get out, walk onto my property without knocking, and start taking measurements near my driveway drain. I step outside and ask who they are. One of them says they are with a landscaping service contracted by the HOA to assess drainage compliance. I ask to see the work order. He pulls out a folded paper with no readable text and says it is a safety evaluation, and they do not need my permission. I pull out my phone and start recording. The second man sees the camera and mutters something to the first. They finish their measurements in under 2 minutes, get back in the van, and leave. 10 minutes later, Gloria walks over from her house 2 doors down. She has her clipboard and her coffee tumbler held like a prop. You cannot interfere with official inspections. I was not interfering, I say. I was recording. She writes something down. That is harassment of contracted personnel, and I am adding it to your file. I ask her if the HOA has my written permission to send workers onto my property. She looks at me like I just asked if the sky is blue. The HOA has authority over all exterior maintenance and safety issues. Read your covenant. I have read the covenant. It does not say the HOA can send people onto my property without notice for non-emergency issues. She smiles. If you want mercy, move somewhere without an HOA. Then she walks away. That night I get an email from the HOA management company. It is a formal notice of violation with a $200 fine for obstruction of safety inspection and failure to maintain compliant snow removal. The email includes a link to submit payment and a warning that unpaid fines accrue interest at 18% annually. I do not pay. Instead, I draft a reply asking for the specific covenant section that authorizes unannounced property access for non-emergency drainage assessments. I attach my recording of the landscaping crew. I send the email and CC the entire HOA board. The next morning I wake up to find a new envelope on my door. This one is from Gloria personally, not the management company. It is a printed complaint log entry, and the writing style is obviously hers. Resident continues pattern of confrontational behavior and refusal to cooperate with standard safety measures. Recommend escalation to legal enforcement if non-compliance persists. I add it to my file. I am starting to see the shape of her game. She is building a paper trail that makes me look like the problem, and she is doing it fast enough that I do not have time to respond before the next wave hits. I have to be on the road before the next round of freezing rain hits, because I am driving to a regional training in Denver this afternoon, and the forecast says the pass will close by evening. I do not have time for another confrontation, so I shovel my walk, move any snow within 10 feet of the drain, and leave by 9. I get back home at 8 p.m. The freezing rain started an hour ago and the roads are a mess. When I pull into my driveway, I see that someone has placed 3 orange cones in a line across the curb in front of my house, blocking access. There is a printed notice zip-tied to one of the cones. No parking, snow emergency zone, violators will be towed. I get out of my car and move the cones. I take pictures. I go inside. At 10 p.m. my phone rings. It is Gloria. You removed official safety equipment and you are now in violation of emergency snow protocols. I am filing a report with the county and the management company tonight. I ask her who authorized the cones. She says the snow compliance hotline has authority to designate emergency zones during active weather events. I ask her if the compliance hotline is just her personal phone. She hangs up. The next day I get a call from the HOA management company. The woman on the phone sounds tired. Mister, we have received multiple complaints about your property and we need to schedule a formal hearing. I ask her what the complaints are. She lists them. Drainage obstruction, safety inspection interference, removal of emergency equipment, hostile communication with committee leadership. I ask her if she has reviewed any of the documentation I sent. She pauses. I see your email, but I have not had time to go through the attachments. Can you come to the clubhouse on Saturday at 10 a.m.? I tell her I will be there. Saturday morning, I print every photo, every email, every notice, and every text message I have received since this started. I put it all in a binder with tabs. I drive to the clubhouse. The parking lot is half full. I walk in and see Gloria sitting at a table near the front with 2 other board members. The management company rep is a woman in her 40s with a laptop. She waves me over and asks me to sit. Gloria does not look at me. The rep starts by reading the list of violations. Before she finishes, I slide the binder across the table. I say I have documentation of every interaction, including recordings and timestamps. The rep opens the binder. One of the board members leans over to look. Gloria finally looks up. You cannot record people without consent. I say Colorado is a one-party consent state, and I was a party to every conversation. The rep flips through the pages. She stops on the photo of the salt bucket. She looks at Gloria. Is this your bucket? Gloria says it is a shared equipment bucket used by the landscaping committee. The rep asks why it was on my property. Gloria says it was placed there as a temporary storage location during a drainage assessment. I say it was placed there overnight without notice, and it obstructed the walkway I had just cleared. The board member next to Gloria says this is getting too detailed for a hearing, and maybe we should table it. The rep closes the binder. She looks at me. Do you have any other documentation? I say yes. I pull out my phone and show her the email thread where I asked for the covenant section that allows unannounced property access. She reads it. She asks Gloria if there is a specific section. Gloria says the safety clause covers it. The rep asks which safety clause. Gloria flips through a printed copy of the covenant and does not find it. The rep makes a note. She says she will follow up with the board and the attorney, and we will reconvene in 2 weeks. Gloria stands up. If you want mercy, move somewhere without an HOA. The rep looks at her. Gloria, please sit down. Gloria sits. I leave the meeting feeling like I made progress, but I know Gloria is not done. She is the kind of person who sees any pushback as a personal insult. 2 days later, I get a text from the compliance hotline. Your driveway has been flagged for ice hazard. A vendor has been dispatched to apply treatment. Do not interfere. I text back asking for the vendor name and work order number. No reply. At noon, a truck pulls up. A man gets out with a spreader and starts walking toward my driveway. I step outside and ask what he is doing. He says he is treating the driveway for ice. I say I did not request this service. He says the HOA did. I ask to see the work order. He shows me a printed invoice with no readable text except a signature line. The signature is illegible. He starts spreading salt. I record the whole thing. He finishes and hands me a copy of the invoice. It has my address and a charge of $120. I do not sign it. He leaves. I call the management company. The same woman answers. I explain what just happened. She puts me on hold. When she comes back, she sounds confused. I do not see any authorization for that service in our system. I ask her if Gloria can authorize vendors directly. She says committee leads can request services, but they need management approval first. I ask her to check if this one was approved. She puts me on hold again. When she comes back, she says there is no record of approval. I ask her what that means for the invoice. She says she will look into it and call me back. If you are enjoying this story, hit the like button and subscribe for more HOA drama that always ends with justice. That afternoon, I get a call from a number I do not recognize. A man introduces himself as another community manager from a different HOA across town. He says he heard about my situation through a colleague and he wants to help. I ask him how he knows. He says the management company rep mentioned it in a group chat and he has seen this pattern before. He asks if I have time to meet. I say yes. We meet at a coffee shop an hour later. He brings a folder. He shows me examples of covenant violations and procedural errors he has seen other boards commit. He points out that unannounced vendor dispatch without owner approval is a breach of fiduciary duty. He says if I can prove Gloria authorized it without management sign-off, I have grounds for a formal complaint. He also says the complaint log entries written in her voice are a red flag because committee leads are not supposed to author their own enforcement documentation. He gives me his card and says to call him if I need a witness statement for any future hearings. I go home and add his contact info to my file. That night I get another email from the management company. The rep says she spoke to the vendor, and they confirmed the service request came directly from Gloria, not through the management approval process. She says the invoice is being voided and I do not owe anything. She also says she is scheduling a meeting with the board to review committee authorization procedures. I reply thanking her and asking for a copy of the vendor communication. She sends it. It is an email chain, and in the second message Gloria writes, "Please proceed with treatment at the address below and bill the owner directly. We will handle reimbursement through compliance enforcement." I read that line 3 times. I saved the email. I have been watching her pile on threats, because that is exactly what I needed her to do. 2 days later, the weather changes. The temperature drops and another storm moves in. By Thursday morning, there is 6 inches of new snow and the wind is gusting hard enough to drift it back over every cleared path within an hour. I shovel my walkway before work. By the time I get home, the walkway is covered again. I shovel it again. At 7 p.m., Gloria walks over. She has her clipboard and her coffee tumbler. "Your property is non-compliant and I am issuing an emergency citation." I ask her what the violation is. She says failure to maintain clear pedestrian access during active snow events. I point to the walkway I just cleared. She says it is already drifting over and that counts as failure. I ask her if she is seriously citing me for weather. She says the rules do not care about weather, they care about compliance. You are not the first person I have corrected, and you will not be the last. I watch her walk back to her house. Her walkway is drifting over too. The next morning I get a formal notice of a special board meeting scheduled for Saturday at the clubhouse. The agenda includes a review of snow compliance enforcement and a vote on escalated penalties for repeat violators. I call the community manager who helped me. He says this is unusual and it sounds like Gloria is trying to fast-track something before the regular board can slow her down. He says I should show up with everything I have and be ready to speak. He also says he will come as a witness if I need him. Saturday arrives. I drive to the clubhouse. The parking lot is almost full and I see Gloria's car near the entrance. I park and walk in. The meeting room is set up with a long table at the front and rows of chairs. About 20 people are in the room. Gloria is at the front table with 3 other board members and the management rep. I sit in the third row. The community manager who helped me walks in and sits next to me. He nods. The meeting starts. The board president, a man in his 60s, reads the agenda. When he gets to the snow compliance item, Gloria stands up. She launches into a 5-minute speech about how repeat violators are endangering the neighborhood and how the current penalty structure is too weak. She pulls out a printed chart showing violation counts by address. My address is highlighted. She says I have the highest count in the neighborhood and I am a clear example of why enforcement needs to be stronger. She proposes doubling all snow-related fines and adding a provision for immediate lien filing after 3 violations. The room is quiet. Then a man in the back raises his hand. He says his address is also on that chart and he has been fined twice for snow that drifted back after he cleared it. A woman 2 rows ahead says she got a citation for a snow pile that was only there for 20 minutes while she finished shoveling. Another man says he got fined for having ice on his driveway even though he salted it the night before. Gloria cuts them off. If you want mercy, move somewhere without an HOA. The room goes cold. The board president clears his throat. Gloria, let them finish. She sits down. The board president asks if anyone else has concerns. I stand up. I say I have documentation showing that multiple citations were issued for conditions caused by weather, not negligence, and that at least 1 vendor service was dispatched without proper authorization. I say I also have an email chain showing that the committee lead authorized a vendor to bill me directly and bypass the management approval process. The management rep looks up. I walk to the front and hand her a printed copy of the email. She reads it. Her face changes. She shows it to the board president. He reads it. He looks at Gloria. Did you authorize this vendor without management approval? Gloria says the compliance hotline has discretion to address immediate safety issues. He says that is not what I asked. She does not answer. The board president asks the management rep if this is a procedural violation. She says yes, and it is also a potential liability issue because the owner was billed for a service he did not request and that was not approved by the management company. He asks if there are other examples. I say yes and I hand him my binder. He flips through it. He stops on the complaint log entry. He reads it out loud. This is written in first person. Who wrote this? Gloria says it is a standard log format. He says no, this is written like a personal letter, and committee leads are not supposed to author their own enforcement logs. He looks at the management rep. She nods. He closes the binder. The community manager next to me stands up. He introduces himself and says he works for another HOA in the area. He says he has reviewed the documentation, and in his professional opinion, the enforcement pattern here violates both the Association Covenant and Colorado Common Interest Community statutes, specifically the requirement for board approval of fines and the prohibition on selective enforcement. He says the fact that one committee lead is issuing citations, authoring complaints, and dispatching vendors without oversight is a structural failure. He says if this continues, the association could face legal action. The room is silent. The board president thanks him and asks him to send his observations in writing. The board president looks at Gloria. I am tabling this proposal pending a full review of committee procedures. In the meantime, All pending fines related to snow compliance are suspended until we can verify proper process was followed. Gloria stands up. You cannot do that. He says I just did. She says this is an attack on the integrity of the compliance program. He says the compliance program appears to have integrity issues and we are going to fix them. She slams her clipboard on the table. If you want mercy, move somewhere without an HOA. The room erupts. 3 people start shouting. The woman 2 rows ahead yells that she has been documenting Gloria's harassment for months. The man in the back says he filed a formal complaint with the management company and never heard back. The board president bangs his hand on the table. Everyone sit down. The room quiets. He looks at Gloria. I am suspending your committee authority effective immediately pending the outcome of the review. You are not to issue any citations or contact any vendors until this is resolved. She stares at him. Then she grabs her clipboard and coffee tumbler and walks out. The room watches her leave. The meeting continues for another 20 minutes. The board votes to suspend all snow-related fines issued in the last 60 days and to refund anyone who already paid. They also vote to require management company approval for any vendor services and to implement a formal complaint review process. The management rep says she will send out a notice to all residents by Monday. The meeting ends. People come up to me and thank me. The community manager shakes my hand. He says I did the right thing and if I need anything else to call him. I drive home feeling like maybe this is over. It is not over. On Monday I get a text from an unknown number. You think you won but you have no idea what is coming. I forward it to the management company rep. She replies saying she will look into it. That afternoon I get a call from the board president. He says Gloria submitted a formal complaint against me, claiming I defamed her in a public meeting and demanding the board take action. He says he is rejecting the complaint because my statements were factual and supported by documentation. He also says the board is moving forward with a vote to remove Gloria from the landscaping committee entirely. He says the vote is scheduled for an emergency meeting on Wednesday night. He asks if I will attend. I say yes. Wednesday night I drive to the clubhouse again. The parking lot is packed. I walk in and see Gloria standing near the front table talking to a man I do not recognize. He is wearing a suit. She sees me and her face hardens. The meeting starts. The board president reads a summary of the findings from the procedural review. He lists multiple violations including unauthorized vendor dispatch, improper complaint authoring, selective enforcement, and failure to follow management approval processes. He says the board has determined that Gloria should be removed from the landscaping committee and barred from holding any committee leadership position for 2 years. He opens the floor for comments. Gloria stands up. She pulls out a packet of papers. She says she has evidence that I conspired with the management company to fabricate the email chain and that the whole thing is a setup. She starts reading from the packet. The board president interrupts her. Gloria, we have reviewed the vendor email and confirmed it is authentic. She ignores him and keeps reading. He raises his voice. Gloria, sit down. She does not sit. She holds up the packet and waves it toward the audience. This is all lies and I will not be silenced by a conspiracy of people who do not understand what it takes to maintain standards in this neighborhood. The board president stands up. Gloria, you are out of order. She yells back. You are not the first person I have corrected, and you will not be the last. At that moment, a gust of wind hits the building and the main door swings open. The packet of papers in Gloria's hand goes airborne. Pages scatter across the room. People duck. One sheet lands on the board president's table. Another lands in my lap. I pick it up. It is a printed email, but the formatting is wrong and the date does not match any of the correspondence I have. I hold it up. The board president sees it. He asks Gloria where she got these documents. She says they are part of the official record. He says they do not look official. The management rep walks over and takes the page from my hand. She looks at it. She says this is not from our system. She shows it to the board president. He looks at Gloria. Did you create these documents? She does not answer. He says, I am calling a vote right now. The board votes 4-0 to remove Gloria from the landscaping committee immediately and to ban her from any leadership role for 2 years. They also vote to refer the matter to the HOA attorney for a review of whether her actions constitute a breach of fiduciary duty. The room applauds. Gloria stands frozen for a moment, then walks out without her papers. The board president picks up the scattered sheets and sets them aside. He says the board will also be issuing automatic refunds to everyone who was fined under the snow compliance program during the last 60 days, and the management company will send a formal apology letter to affected residents. He thanks everyone for coming and ends the meeting. I walk outside. The parking lot is covered in fresh snow. I see Gloria standing next to her car. She is on her phone. I walk past her toward my car. She does not look at me. I get in and start the engine. As I pull out of the lot, I see a tow truck idling near the clubhouse entrance. I do not know if it is there for her or someone else, but I do not stop to find out. 3 days later, I get an email from the HOA attorney. It is short. The attorney states that after reviewing the documentation I submitted along with the vendor email admitting Gloria told them to ignore my approved application, the board has determined that multiple procedural violations occurred and that the enforcement actions taken against my property were invalid. The email says all fines have been voided, all citations have been removed from my record, and the management company has been instructed to discipline the representative who enabled the improper vendor dispatch. The email also includes a formal letter of retraction and a check for the fines I did not pay plus a $50 reimbursement for my time. I sit at my kitchen table and read it twice. 2 weeks later, I get a notice in the mail. The board has scheduled a regular meeting to vote on new committee oversight rules and a revised enforcement process that requires management approval for all citations and vendor services. The notice says all residents are invited to attend. I do not go. I have spent enough time in that clubhouse. Spring comes. The snow melts. I see Gloria occasionally when I am outside, but she does not speak to me. She is no longer on the landscaping committee. I hear from a neighbor that she tried to run for the board in the annual election and lost by a margin so wide the vote count made people laugh. The new landscaping committee lead is a retired teacher who sends polite reminders about lawn care and does not threaten anyone. The salt bucket with the cracked lid is gone. I do not know where it went, and I do not care. I still work at the county clerk office. My supervisor has not mentioned my tardiness in months. The HOA is quieter now. The compliance hotline was shut down and replaced with a shared email address monitored by the management company. I get an occasional notice about paint approval or mailbox repairs, but they are reasonable and they follow the actual covenant rules. I have kept my file in a drawer just in case, but I have not needed it. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.